Welcome back to Walk with TFB. Tim Bryson here, and as y'all know, I'm a Black millennial who is eager to have unfiltered conversation with authentic people centered on education, sport, and culture. Today, we are walking with an author, a philanthropist, and a practitioner. A Tallahassee native, he moved more than 1,000 miles north to study as a football athlete at Michigan State University. While at Michigan State, he was a four-year contributor and made a pivotal play to spark one of the greatest comebacks in NCAA Division I football history. After earning his bachelor's, he stayed in East Lansing and earned his master's degree in public relations while gaining meaningful work experience with the Big Ten Network, 4th and 1 nonprofit, and Student Athlete Support Services Office. Together, these experiences prepared him to pursue a career in college athlete advising and development. His leadership in athletics reflects his mission statement: to add value to any space he is occupying, while also being a champion for employee success and cultivating lifelong ambassadors by providing a first-class experience. Alongside his 9-to-5, he runs Beyond the Gridiron LLC and serves as a committee member for the Winning Edge Advisory Committee. And in 2021, he transitioned into two new roles: the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Detroit Pistons and President of the National Association for Academic and Student Athlete Development Professionals, otherwise known as N4A. Vision, passion, drive, determination. I implore you all to pause this episode right now, grab a pen and paper, and enjoy being a sponge during this walk. So without further ado, y'all help me welcome Ashton Henderson. Big bro.
My man, I'm so glad to be here. I've been jealous, man. I've been trying to walk since you started, man. I've been jealous, man. I'm just invite.
Hey, it was coming, bro. It's too many good ones, man. I mean, all y'all are great, but it's like I gotta spread it out. You know what I mean? I can't.
Hey, I hear you, man. And before we even start, man, I just want to say this. Tim, you are phenomenal. I've been watching you since I met you in 2018 in Arizona, and luckily, Risa had more funding and beat me to it. We were joking that who was going to get you first. So she got it. She won round one, but I'm going to win the overall war. I can tell you that.
Hey, that's love, bro. I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that. Shout out to Huncho as well. But Ashton, we're going to have a good conversation, bro. You were somebody, and I enjoy just doing research on people. I love doing informational interviewing, which I think is probably why I started this podcast, just to record these natural, organic conversations. But in doing research on your story, a lot of new things for me came up. And I thought I knew a lot about you, to be honest. And I'm glad that these things were exposed in my own research. And so before we get into any of your story, I'm first curious, and we're all curious to know, what is bringing you Black joy right now?
Man, outside of being here right now, bringing me Black joy, I'll tell you, I went to and stumbled across, I was at work not too long ago, watching the Nets and the Pistons game on Friday. And I love talking about real-time examples. And one of my friends who I met in this area, who I respect immensely, I walked in and essentially just started connecting with folks, just like we are naturally gravitating and do. And I promise you, every person I met has some type of leadership role in this great city that I reside in, Detroit, Michigan, from the executive director of the Urban League through various charities and opportunities where I just saw more growth. And I was like, man, they need to rename this suite the Black Excellence Suite. And from that moment, I've connected with all 4 or 5 folks that just this morning from that connection on Friday. And that just continued to affirm I'm exactly where my feet are and where I need to be. Hence, 2 of the 4 had connections to Tallahassee, which also shows you that had I not walked in that space, that's just something that I know and I'm a firm believer of, and those are affirmations that continue to show up for me. So that's given me joy, especially Black joy in so many aspects, and leading the association that I love and that's been near and dear to me for so long, N4A.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, and shout out to N4A as well. But I'm glad you mentioned the Tallahassee piece because you were born in Tallahassee, correct?
Born and raised, baby.
All right, so we share that in common as well. I was actually born in Tallahassee too.
What?
Leon County, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
My mom went to FAMU. Dad did too. Yeah. I got into Florida State for undergrad. Actually, I would have known you a little bit sooner, but they ain't had no money for me, man. They ain't had no money for me, but nevertheless, I'm connected both, you and Courtney now. But let's do this, Ashton. Let's move to segment one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, your story, I just learned so much. Like, for example, Coach O and the whole recruiting piece. I'm not gonna ruin it, but just tell us, like, what's your story, bro? Like, talk to us, especially for those who may not know the deeper and more meaningful decisions you made that have propelled you to who you are today.
Absolutely, man. So, Tim, that just gave me another notch of where we are in our relationship, even though we share the Tallahassee love. I did not know that. So that's even more expansive to how I feel about you and our connectivity. But my story is simple. Ashton Henderson, born and raised Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, 9 pounds, 9 ounces, to beautiful parents who have instilled so much in me. Blue collar family. My dad worked 2 jobs. Both worked for the state government. My mom was the head of pretrial for the state of Florida under Bob Graham for many, many, many years. So education and, opportunities were always afforded to me because of how hard they worked and how much I saw in both of them. Mm-hmm. From there, at an early age, I was involved in sport. And let me take a step back because I think it's important for people to level set and know who I am and my foundational principles are built in. I will never impose or try to put my religion on anyone, but I'm a man of faith. I'm very blessed to have grown and been exposed to the church. So my parents did a great job of, when I didn't want that Easter speech or when I didn't want the Christmas play or being part of the Rainbow team, all of those things helped me to become a dynamic speaker and to be who I am today and what I've learned from that experience. So powering forward, was involved in sports since I was 5 years old. My dad would always put me in various programs. I would be 5 playing with a 7-year-old, so I had no choice but to get better. Mm-hmm. I was a very feisty young man. I wanted to win. I always knew I was going to be a competitor, but I always wondered, why can't I keep up with these guys because they were older than me? But one day it clicked, and I started to really get involved and really start to pick it up. I was a 4-sport athlete: baseball, football, track, and also basketball. But my love was football. And so from there, got involved, went to a school called North Florida Christian School, which I was very thankful for my upbringing and everything there. Then my last 2 years, I wanted to see how good I was, Tim. I wanted to see, man, what this looked like on a 5-star juggernaut stage at Lincoln High School. And I ended up transferring there my last 2 years. And also education is big to me. And they had an AP program where I was enlisted in and was able to get some college credits along the way to get into college. So ended up finishing out at Lincoln, had a great career, ended up getting a full opportunity and scholarship at Michigan State University, as you mentioned, where my life was transformed. I remember like it was yesterday when I was like, I'm signing to Michigan State, and everybody was like, you going where? You about to do what, with who, and how? And you've never been up north before? And man, I was so I wanted to leave Florida and gain some other experiences, knowledge, skills, and abilities. So that was always big to me. So that was one of the things I made that declaration early and often in my recruitment period. Like, I'm leaving the state of Florida because I know I want to experience more. And I'm so grateful I did because it exposed me to so many different things and led me back here, which never in a million years I thought I would be back in Michigan. But it goes back to those things that lead you in life. So from that experience, like most, you want to go pro. I hurt my knee going into my senior year. Couldn't really bounce back, and I struggled. My identity, man, was rocked. I've been a student athlete since I was 5 years old, and I didn't know what was next for me. And a guy who I love with all my heart, and I'm hoping I'm making him proud every single day, Jim Pignataro, tapped me on my shoulder and said, hey, man, I got a graduate assistant opportunity for you. It's yours if you want it. And I'm like, what does that even mean? He was like, Ashton, you would be great at student athlete support services. You're a relationship builder, you're a connector, and you love and you serve. You're a servant leader by trade. I would love for you to come work in my office and help our student athletes be better, and you be that example for them. And I was like, hey, sign me up. I'm here. I did it. Worked for Jim for 2 years while I was there. He was the NCAA president, which was special, and watched him do his thing in a very major way. And from there, he helped me get my first full-time job at Florida State back home. I was there in academic support and student athlete support services for over 2 years. And a boss who hired me, who I just spoke to yesterday, shout out to the original Hefe in my life, Steve Duzan, who I just talked to. I love you, brother. Thank you for taking a chance on me when I was 25 years old. And he took a second chance on me when I went to Clemson University when he got there and was recruited away. And I worked in student athlete support services for Clemson, which we called Vickery Hall at that time. Now that the bag has been expanded, it is now called NERI. NERI family helped elevate that program. So spent 3 years there. Then I got recruited back to Florida State University to lead a character and development program, which has morphed into 3 classes that I've been able to build and that are still there. So you talk about legacy building and trying to continue to have your mark, not only in sport, but in life. And that's what I've always been about, being a visionary and seeing things before people can see them. So did that, got promoted all the way up to assistant athletic director, sport administrator over track and field and cross country, which we also have a mutual love. My boy, shout out to Mike, my frat brother, one of my guys. I love him. I love him with all my heart. Just spoke to him recently too. And also sports supervisor secondary for football while I was there too. So learned a lot, exposed a lot. And while I was there, also was the chief diversity officer for our athletics department for 2 years, as well as served on the President's Council for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, as well as curated our NIL, name, image, and likeness programming, created 2 career readiness courses in brand image and elevation before I left Florida State. So very thankful. But then, shoot. And this amazing opportunity came open, especially what we saw in the world with George Floyd. And I felt called and led and to really leave college athletics because this opportunity was very rare. And I wanted to do it full time because I wanted to train, educate, and lead and show in this space that the knowledge, skills, and abilities that I've learned in higher ed are transferable and applicable and can help change generations, which I believe this Gen Z group will do. And I firmly believe that. So shot my shot February 1st, started with the Pistons, got the opportunity. Crazy story about relationships and how that ties into how I even got back to the great state of Michigan. And here I am. It's been 9 months. And I'm so thankful to power humanity with our Pistons family, as well as be the first, probably, if not the youngest, NCAA president as well, while doing both. So I'm very, very, very fortunate to say leadership has no number. Everything in which we aspire to do, you can do, no matter what people tell you can't do. Because just believe it, many people told me I can't do many things, and they still do. But I conduct myself, and that only fuels me, gives me more energy and fire to show that I'm aligned and destiny divinely great for what I know my purpose is, and that is to serve, lead, and help people identify their why and add value to spaces and rooms in which we do. So that is my story in a nutshell. I wouldn't change anything about it, any job, any opportunity. I'm just blessed to be exactly where my feet are and to empower people to do the same.
Now, we're blessed that you are also where your feet are, that you continue to invest and to serve and help all of us identify, but also pursue our why. Though I just literally listened to a podcast you were featured on Power the Journey. And you talked about the fumble return. You made SportsCenter top 10, I believe it was number 2 to be exact. And you said it was in that moment that you realized that impossible didn't exist, right? That you knew anything was possible. And so as I think back and really just listen to your stories you just shared with us now, we're going to talk about Coach O later offline. I don't even want to know about why, Michigan State over Ole Miss or UCLA, but that's fine. But during this tenure, what have you learned about yourself, right? Because you talk about vision, you talk about passion, you talk about drive. But as you think about your own development, both character and leadership and otherwise, what have you learned about yourself in this process?
Yeah, I think, man, I'm so thankful to have so many dynamic leaders and people that I aspire and have learned from over the years. But I think the pandemic really gave me introspective self-reflection that I've never experienced before. And what I mean by that is what I learned about myself is that there's so much more to me than me being an athletic administrator. And that's something where I know where I've been working very tirelessly to figure out what that is. And it's okay not to know that next step or where you want to go, but just know where your passion is and where you find yourself serving and spending the most time is where you want to be. And so that has helped me launch another company called Ashton Inspires, which I do diversity, equity, inclusion trainings and very other leadership development and consulting work, which I had I've dabbled in it, but I really thought through there's so many things that we're good at. And I say all of us, and we're given these gifts that I really feel that only we have the work to do and no one can do them quite like us. And we were here to be a blessing to other people. And that's something where I found through this pandemic that, yes, I'm a collegiate administrator. There's a lot of various intersectionality and points that I identify with. And, my preferred pronouns are he, him, his, but there's so many layers to me that people don't know that if you just took the time just to connect with people, just not in a transactional way, but a transformational way, you'll see that we're all more alike than different. And it's so beautiful to see that. And it's something that I've seen and I'm glad to be doing and learning about every day.
This is good. This is really good. And so, Ashton, this podcast is one that we get to the point. I think you mentioned on that Power Play podcast as well, like working in corporate and working in professional sports, you gotta have your shit in 15 seconds or you lost them, right? They're not paying attention. And I see you laughing now. And so I want to transition to segment 2 because you mentioned your role at N4A. And again, you're not just multifaceted. I think every experience you've had, all the identities you hold inform everything that you do in its own unique way. But in particular on this episode, I want to focus on N4A because one, I'm actually not as familiar as I probably could and or should be, which we'll talk about in a second. But two, you're the president of this association, right? During a time and during really a moment that is pivotal, not just for our industry, but for higher education as a whole. And so can you just talk more about not just your interest in wanting to serve as N4A president, but also what does your role and responsibilities entail right now?
Yeah, absolutely, man. N4A means the world to me. And I think it was very important and incumbent upon myself prior to me even taking this role in the NBA. The first question I asked my supervisor, who is phenomenal, was not, what's my relocation package? What is this opportunity, or what we say in corporate America, reload, or anything of that nature in terms of anything dealing with the job. It was, hey, I'm heavily involved in this association called N4A, which has a heavy diversity, equity, inclusion focus, and also higher education, which I'm rooted in and love. Mm-hmm. Do you mind if I still carry out this opportunity? And her answer was a resounding yes. And that was my first thing, because I wanted to make sure I had support and I had the opportunity to really have that to lead from this angle, because, I could have walked away. I could have had the opportunity to, seems like not to be in alignment because it technically doesn't fit, but however, it fits for me because I have the affinity and passion and love for it. So N4A, we serve over 2,600 members, whether that be Division I, II, and III, Hispanic serving institutions, low resource institutions, HBCUs, you name it. N4A is massive. And then I'm telling you, being exactly where your feet are, my mentor at Michigan State was Dr. Clarence Underwood. Dr. Underwood was the second African-American athletic director in Michigan State's history. He also was one of the founding fathers of N4A in 1975. N4A only had 12 members when he was there, and now it has expanded. And talk about a full circle moment. My first ever board meeting this summer, he spoke to our group and gave a powerful story about how we've grown and how he used to call people to talk about academic support and student athlete development, and whoever would show up. So I love history. I love just knowing how I fit into that and kind of continue to be a legacy builder, and to know that he was a founding father and he was alive and in his right mind to give that message, to showcase that. So again, N4A really is the global leader of academic and student athlete support services. And I'll tell you that this based on relationships that we have over in the UK and other places in the world to really connect the student and enhance the student athlete experience. That is our mission. That is our charge. That is our goal. We're a community of practitioners that elevate their experience, as well as, through our guiding principles that we're rooted in. We just went through a huge strategic plan reorg not too long ago, and it is awesome. And it is an honor and opportunity and privilege to lead the largest association under the NACTA umbrella, and also be just an inspiration for those who look like me to know that they can do this too. And also know that you can beat the odds, and you have the support of many folks who have been in this. And there have been some giants in this chair, and I'm just blessed to continue to lead and lead through what I've seen and exposed to.
And so thinking about what your role is in Infrared right now, again, you've been very consistent in your messaging, right? Not with just the Infrared in 60, but also the newsletters, so we get through email. But you really focus on these 3 E's, right? Energy, empathy, and empowerment. Can you talk more about why those 3 words that reflect and guide your tenure as president right now?
Man, if you don't know me, if you ain't met me, I'm gonna meet you with energy. I think there's a consistent choice of how we show up every day. And for me, energy is everything. It changes the scope and the ability of the room. It changes how other people view you. I love that energy component and this alliteration of how I use it, because I had several years to reflect about what this was going to be. So energy is everything, turning up the decibels of life, and just being a bright spot to somebody really means the world to me. So that's kind of where that came from. Empathy, man, we've all been through a lot. This has been a crazy 2.5-year journey. Feels like 20 to many of us. Feel like the year 2020, we lost a lot of lives in our own makeup, things that we've gone through and endured. So empathy is important to me, to meet people with grace, to really level set and understand their experience. Man, I went through a divorce over 1.5 years ago. So you talk about empathy, but not knowing what was next for me, but thankful that I met the love of my life through N4A and our association. Shout out to my lady, Chloe, and many others who keep me upright, but I'm just thankful. But that's where that empathy piece came from. And empowerment, like I said, my whole mantra, my bane of existence is to show people that they can do things that they don't think they can. And through my role and through as a leader, and hope people get that, is I want them to see that they have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to be exactly where they need to be and how they want to be, and how they can be strategic and intentional about getting there if they allow people to empower them with education, meet them with love, and also help them grow in various aspects beyond the scope of just the association, but in life.
This is good. So energy, right? Turn up the decibels. Empathy, giving, extending, embracing both grace and love. And then empowerment. What I love that, like helping you to see that this can be done, right? It hasn't been done yet because it's waiting on you. And I know N4A has professional development opportunities. Actually, one's happening right now for, in particular, staff members. So can you talk more about what programming and professional development opportunities are available for people like myself who want to get more involved?
Absolutely. So right now, currently, just right now this week, shout out to our PDI class, which is our Steve McDonald Professional Development Institute, which I'm a proud graduate of. We have a new practitioner track as well as a student athlete development track that's going on simultaneously right now. I'm very, very, very blessed that next year in 2022, we're going to have all 5 tracks going on at the same time. So we have a leader manager track, we have new practitioner, student athlete development, we have an HBCU track, low resource institution, that go together, as well as explorations of other opportunities where you'll see a diversity, equity, inclusion tenure and track immersed in each and every one of those learning and engagement opportunities. We have a plethora of ways through our virtual education opportunities that we provide, which are professional development webinars that will happen every third Thursday, launching in December this month. That will go through all the way through convention. We also have some dynamic committees, one that I used to be chair of that I'm very privy to and grateful for their service, the Ethnic Concerns Committee, Learning Concerns and Enhancement. I mean, you name it. We have some dynamic committees that go above and beyond their call of duty to provide programming and growth and opportunities to the student athlete experience, and not just student athletes, but for ourselves, which is so big important. So there are so many ways. We also have a mentorship program in N4A that technically and truthfully, we speak truth on when we walk with TB that we need to do a better job of, me included, in terms of being more intentional with our mentorship program. We always have more mentees and mentors. So that's something that I'm in the business of hoping to change, but just grateful too for our other member schools who have created some amazing opportunities for their YPs to learn the full scope of this business and to understand how they plug in and how they matter, and how we need them to continue to move us forward and future-proof our association.
Love that, future-proof. I appreciate you being honest about an opportunity to really build out and extend and expand this mentor program, right? And like I had called you on last week, we had just had a conversation on Twitter. I want to give a huge shout out to both Katie down at Memphis and JT at Bradley, right? They reached out to me and said, yo, Tim, we got an idea. We saw you had done a Twitter chat before. We wanted to partner with another platform, but like we knew we could go through you, right? We know we can have an honest conversation about where we are as an industry, where we are as humans, right? Where our future lies. And so we want to have a conversation about young professionals, particularly leaving the industry. And so I'm listening to you talk about N4A opportunities. Those who are listening to this podcast and or who may already be familiar with, understand that there are opportunities that exist, yet we're still losing people. And I say we as an industry, like we're still losing not just humans, not just bodies, but really good people and talent, taking corporate terms, that can transform both our present and our future. And so you couldn't obviously make the Twitter chat. You're doing 10,000 amazing things, which is totally fine. But I know, like we always mention, right, the chat never ends, right? The conversation always continues. We can go back and read, et cetera. And so I know you had some time to just review some of the feedback and commentary from that channel last week. And curious just to get your initial thoughts, both as N4A president, but just also as someone who used to work, particularly in the college sports space as well.
Yeah, man. I'm so thankful, and unfortunately I couldn't make it in real time, but I woke up this morning intentionally and read all 10 questions, every comment, everything that was shared. And I want to just say, first of all, thank you for the radical candor from everyone, because it is such a unique challenge and time in which we're all facing right now. And we're in what we call the great resignation. You see it everywhere in a time of the tsunami era and human resources, where you find those keywords in terms of folks. I would believe it's over 70% of people who've left their current jobs to seek more opportunities of flexibility. But the pandemic showed us, and what it's taught us, that we can be more effective virtually and not have to feel so pressed to be on all the time, being on a beck and call to someone, or feeling that you don't have control of your own life. People are undervalued, they're underpaid, they're underserved. And I'm very fortunate as N4A president. I had the opportunity to attend the 5th annual Middlebrook Summit. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Middlebrook Summit, it is an amazing summit put on by Syracuse University, where faculty, athletic representatives, conference commissioners. We've been very fortunate for the past couple of years that Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, he was there this year virtually. And we also had the commissioner of the ACC, Jim Phillips, present with us as a speaker. And it is an awesome time to really ask these questions that we're talking about. So what we do after the opportunity is over is we come up with a white paper, a discussion, an opportunity to really level set, to say what are the number one issues that we're seeing. And everything I read in those comments, I was able to bring up. And what we're going to do is some type of task force. How do we keep this conversation going? Because we got to we have to continue to keep our dynamic, talented, thought-provoking Gen Zs in collegiate athletics in ways in which, so we have to have conversations. We can't, but the conversation have and be met with action and a plan to make sure that there are tangible steps for growth. Not all African-American folks or people of color, Black, brown, red, orange should be carrying or having the burden of DEI roles. It's got to be different. It's got to be better, because that was one of the things on me, trying to do that work with no funding, trying to be effective with trying to galvanize people through screens when they're going on their own challenges. And I could talk about this all day because I'm very passionate about it, but I'm thankful that those conversations and how much of the student professionals, student service professionals that we've lost, and people of color and minorities who are amazing, who have transitioned, and those who are not, that we need to get back and create a pipeline program so they see the value, they don't get burned out, and have a chance to really grow in the spaces and find out how to grow in place and have opportunities where we show a plan to them, which I'm working on behind the scenes with some other like-minded folks who want to see the same result.
That's good. We're going to talk about pipeline and pathway in a second, but I want to stick with the chat in itself, because I'm a person similar to yourself, right? Possible doesn't exist, visionary, trying to find the next thing before anyone else is thinking about it. So I'll never say no. It's always a not yet, or a when, or a how, or like with whom, but never no. So when Katie and JT reached out, I was like, yeah, sure, like we can do this. Like that's nothing. I don't know what questions we're gonna ask in particular right now, but we'll figure it out. But they sent me the questions, and on the day of, I'm like, yo, like we about to be talking about some serious shit. Like we about to be talking about and answering questions that people want answers to, but may not always listen and be receptive of, right? And so we sent the questions, right? We tailored them. I kind of boosted them up to really get the conversation going and really mirror what the conversations are like on this podcast. But even in the moment with some of the questions, I'm like, yo, like how honest would participants want to be about their experience without feeling like they're going to be blackballed, right? Without feeling like ADs and commissioners and people in hiring positions aren't going to go through the same Twitter chat and say, I don't want that person, I don't want this person because of what they said. And so how do we get to a place, as you mentioned, support is action, right? Taking the next step. But how do we get to a place on our campuses that we've had in our Twitter chat to really be open about our experiences, one, but then two, understand and really have it be known that people are actually listening to how we feel. Because I think just from my own experience in having conversations with other people at different institutions, we don't always feel that. You see what I'm saying?
Wholeheartedly. I think it's been a way where many of us, including myself for years, have felt we had to walk on eggshells about how we truly and really feel about various things.
Yep.
And I think, what we've experienced and what we see now is you have the ear of a lot of people that you don't even think you do. So we just, and I say we, identify as a millennial as well. But the thing is how do we collectively bring our collective genius together to really make sure our points are heard? And one of the biggest things I did by coming on board in the Pistons family is all of us have ideas. We have strategy. We're smart. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite books is The First 90 Days. My Michael D. Watkins helps you organize, identify challenges, things of that nature. Shout out to my one of my mentors, Felicia Martin, for making sure that was a stocking stuffer for me when I started my new role. But with that being said, we have to make sure we're providing room and space to hear people out. And not just listening to listen, but listening to understand so that we can come up and cultivate action plans. So having active listening sessions, putting a group together, particularly with that group, I shared the entire thread with our executive team this morning to really put some thoughts around how can we mobilize and strategize and really get to the root cause of why this is happening, but also giving the space for people to realize that it's okay that we have to sometimes, and that's something I've learned. I'm going back to something you asked me earlier, especially being in the corporate world, about what did I learn about myself. I used to struggle with having tough conversations. I was a person who always wanted to make everyone happy, like, oh yeah, whatever we can do. Yeah. But that has changed.
Yeah.
Not saying I don't want to see, have consensus, but I want to rumble. Brene Brown said it best in Dare to Lead. You got to have those tough conversations in order to see progress. And we welcome that. And I welcome that because it's going to only help us make everything better. And I think we've not rumbled for many, many years. And it's now starting to really manifest in ways that we never thought it could. So now it's in a point of like, all right, how do I fix this? But no, let's be more proactive and make a strategy where people feel valued, heard, and seen, so that we can really help ourselves be in a space to make true change, because it is certainly there for the taking.
Yeah, it is.
The spaces that like this, where it really can get and galvanize people in ways in which we never thought it could move the needle.
This is good. This is really, really good. And earlier you had mentioned pipeline, right? And I think there's certainly a conversation about retention, and one that needs to be emphasized, really overemphasized right now. But there's also this recruitment and this attractment piece. And one thing in the Twitter chat that I know I mentioned very loudly was like, many people, I speak for myself too, either don't know what Infrared is, right? Are not familiar with NCAA leadership development programming, may not have a clue like what Women Leaders stands for, let alone which city is located in. But there are people at the undergraduate and graduate level who would benefit from being involved in or aware of these organizations. And so as I think about the recruitment of more diverse and particularly non-white identity communities into college sport in particular, how can we better get ingrained and involved at the undergraduate level to prepare undergraduate athletes to pursue careers in academics and student development? Because right now, I feel like people just stumble upon it at some point without knowing any of the resources to support them in that journey.
Yeah, so I'm very thankful. One of the biggest things right now in my presidency is that alone for pipeline for my 3 strategic goals. So one is to host our first ever M4A career fair in Las Vegas. And why we're doing that is so that essentially we can start building that pipeline early with folks who are very curious about opportunities in the sports industry that they just don't know about. So really trying to be intentional about working collaboratively and cross-functionally to do that. Also, just taking the time to really pour back into communities where you don't necessarily see people outside of academics, compliance, student-athlete development who look like you. So just trying to work with other associations within active and with other spaces to create more awareness and opportunity. So I would say just really having that educational component, and something that we're speaking candidly here on Walk with TV, and something I and many colleagues and myself really just got tired of hearing and just frustrated as hell about, like, African-American men, women, minorities aren't prepared, or what can we do? So what ended up happening is myself, Shamari Brown, the ACC, Lamar Pottinger, the NCAA, Adrian Haraway, at NACTA created what's called the Brotherhood Alliance. So what we do is volunteer our time, talents, and we had our first inaugural class, which will launch again second year, will be February, where we take folks of color. We're working on a pipeline program. We need to have one for our sisters too. And shout out to La Casa out there too, which I learned about through the DEI Summit, who has that same lean in and focus, where we're going to work collaboratively, talk about visionary, how to continue to uplift these spaces to get people of color in these rooms that we need to be in to make influential decisions. So we had about 20 brothers from Division I, II, III come together and learn just how to be a professional. What do we need to do? How do we answer emails? How to be, on point? Just various things where we have ADs come out. Shout out to Eric Wood at La Tech, as well as Randall Richmond. Just brothers from just coming through, as well as helping us. Iron sharpens iron, which I'm a huge proponent of. So more opportunities like that, so they can continue to spread the word about what's happening, as well as help us continue to grow our pipeline to come into student athlete development, come into academics. Shout out to my mentee, Dorian Dickey, who's doing some amazing work at Clemson. But that's what it's all about. We got to continue to be just authentic and intentional about what we want to do, because the time is now to achieve those goals.
No, yeah, it's definitely not. I always think some would argue that it's overdue, long overdue. Yet one thing I'm thinking about, which is why I mentioned earlier about even me not being attracted to really most of infrared programming, is because of how I got socialized into higher education, right? And so it's a quick story. I've always said I want to work in student athlete development to create an environment in sport that mirrored what I had in student affairs, right? Like I had the mentoring, I had the professional development, I had the conference attendance, I had conference presentations like as an undergraduate student. And so there was an association called NASPA. There's also ACPA. It has an undergraduate fellows program that provides paid internships in the summer with housing for undergraduate students, right? That has opportunities for leadership development for grad students. And as I look over on the college sports side, I'm like, there's different pieces that have that, right? Whether it's, intern NCAA, was NCAA related, N4A related, MOA, when didn't mention MOA earlier, now La Casa. It's all over the place. And so if I'm an undergraduate student, let alone a graduate student or a young professional trying to get involved and or aware to like get into a space that's not just providing professional development, but also again, capital, socio-political capital to continue to advance through sponsorship and mentorship. How do we do that? Because right now it feels like it's very segmented and people are starting to do their own things in their own ways. But under other industries, like there's one-stop shop. Now there's different stores you can go into while you're here. But over here in sport, it's like, where do I go? Do I kick it with MOA? Do I kick it with NCAA? Like, how do I really advance in my career, given that there's so many different opportunities, all of which are giving and are offering different things and different capital? Just me talking out loud right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge conundrum for us all, right? Like,
Sure.
Where do I tap in? Where do I plug in? And I think hopefully with this, I'm not saying the career fair is going to achieve or solve everything, but the way I move, I think there's power in collaboration.
Sure.
Particularly learning that through the NCAA leadership development programming that I've been in. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Dr. Charles Wincombe Leadership Institute, where we learned about creative abrasion. We learned about the power of network and all these various things that you have to, and no one can do anything alone. So my goal is to bring all of those resources together in one umbrella so that we can tell that story in a very unique way, and start being intentional when we go to these various conferences to invite sport management programs, to have more individuals, to really have a more standardized and strategic approach about what we are doing and how we can all impact each other. And I'm very thankful to President and one of my good friends over the years who I really respect, Dr. Ed Scott, who is the current president of MOA, who reached out to every association president to figure out how MOA can add value and tap in and what he's doing in their leadership team with the MEAN organization. So how can we work together with MOA, with NAD, with NAC, to really tell a story in a very unique way, that these are all the opportunities that exist that you can do. And it's just special because I don't think it's ever been done, but just thinking through things as I talk, something that we even have, and that's where that career fair idea came from, to have representation of, I can do this because I see me, someone who looks like me, someone who identifies as I do, whether that's binary, non-binary, whatever that is for you, and just being inclusive to that as well. But it's so much, and I think this is just a start to something special for many, many years to come that we can educate, because I didn't know, I'm telling you, I mean, I knew my academic advisor, but I couldn't tell you what association we fell under. Mm-hmm. I didn't know any of that stuff. I think we got to do a better job as leaders of taking a pause. Shout out again to LD when we read Kevin Cashman's pause principle of yeah. What that means, to really be just in tune with what we need to do to help shaping and give other people a better experience.
Well, I'll tell you after this and before this, but whatever I can do, in particular with that career fair, whether it's amplifying, whatever you need, bro, I'm telling you on the record now, just let me know and we'll make it happen for sure. But a question I have, when we talked about not just thinking the recruitment, the retention, the attraction, but there's still MS leaving the industry. Like, for whatever reason, they're leaving at alarming rates. And that's something that we can no longer ignore, to be honest. And so my question to you is, like, is there hope? Right? Like, where do we go from here? What's the direction? What's our first step? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, and that's a big part of that E, right? My middle E is empathy. And yep. I would say, I think even for me, I would categorize myself as one of those people who ended up leaving, but you just don't know someone's story. You just don't know why or understand what that's happening and or the pressures that they walk into and where they're coming in and bringing in to work. Then you couple that with an environment that's not supported. I'm just speaking to the comments that I read that
Yep.
have just tumultuous culture, and there becomes an area where your own mental health becomes not a priority, but a liability in so many different respects. So I personally do feel that there's hope, and I'm hopeful because I really do feel that now that we have the ears of the folks and we're seeing these at alarming rates, as you mentioned, Tim, that we have an opportunity to right the ship and right the wrongs of those who deserve their own reparations by collegiate athletics in terms of what we're experiencing. So I'm a huge proponent. At one point in time, I wanted to be an athletic director, and that's still on the docket for me. And I think that's something where our paths just take us different ways to get there.
Sure.
So this hiatus that we see or what people are doing, I think as more dynamic leaders get put in place, such as what we've seen over the last several months with, upticks in ADs with minorities, women of color, folks getting opportunities to take the reins. That's what people want to see. That's the hope and leadership, that aspect of, okay, I need to take a pause, but doesn't mean I'm not coming back.
Sure.
And I think I remain hopeful that more people will come back once they see things restructured differently, done differently, have this more autonomous movement of their schedule, things of that nature where we can really show the effectiveness more virtually, more flex time and work to keep people sane and then prioritize mental health. I remember there used to be a time in summer when I was an administrator where you could really put your feet up. You can just coast, kick it. But man, students coming in now in May, and you're like, I can't even breathe from May.
Yo.
And it's a lot. And it's
It
exhausting.
is. It is.
Man.
It is.
I'm hopeful that will change.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm definitely hopeful, not just college sport, but higher education as a whole, because as you mentioned, it's a moment, it's an opportunity, but we're built for this. But we're built for this together, which is I think the exciting part about it. Let me do this, Ashton. Segment three is always my favorite segment. How can I best support you? But also, how can those listening best support you, not just the human Ashton, but also the positional Ashton as president of N4A?
Yeah, that Twitter chat was eye-opening for me. I got to be honest, and I'm thankful that it was had and held because, like I said, we got to have more intentional conversations like that, which spurred an idea in my mind that maybe we can build upon. Is I'm going to make myself accessible to host some opportunities just to actively listen to your thoughts and how we can add value to you and your experience. Because if you're passionate about it, you're going to show up. So that's one of the things that I want to do for sure coming out of this. I need you all to support N4A and 60, man. That's something where a retweet, a like, those things go a long way as we continue to educate and give you knowledge and give you power. Because not everyone, and I'm bad at it, I can type the longest email ever, which I'm trying to be better at. But that's why N4A and 60 was created. I'm grateful to our executive team for supporting that initiative and helping us convey a message to Gen Z in which you can really absorb it without feeling like it's wasting your time. Do we need to get on TikTok? Is it time? Is it opportunity there for us to leverage that skill set? And someone told me they get recipes from TikTok, and I was like, "Are you serious? Like, is that even a thing?" So I need you all to keep us relevant. I need you all to support the initiatives we're doing, and if something doesn't, vibe or jive well with you, I need to know so that we can help make your experiences better than we can. I'm serious about the first class experience because it is truly how you make people feel, and being rooted and learning from one of the best HR professionals in the game right now. Our greatest asset is our people. And if our people aren't, meeting them where they are, how we connect with them, how we treat them. Maya Angelou, I just wrote this on my presidential report, one of my favorite quotes: people forget what you did, said, but then never forget how you make them feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to continue to be that voice for you all who do not feel heard, but just know that I've heard you, you're valued, you're heard and seen, and we want to make sure that we continue to provide spaces for you to do that and have authentic ways to connect to. So that's how I would love for you to help me, Brother Tim, so I can continue to walk myself.
Most definitely. I appreciate you sharing that, Ashton. Well, before we bounce, I have a few questions for you, Ashton. You shouldn't be too consuming for you. But the first question, favorite sports memory? Either one you competed in, witnessed, call after the fact.
Can I have two?
You got two. Two.
I'm an inclusive brother, so one is not even about me. So I have to tie this in because it's so important. So if you don't know, I just picked up golf not too long ago. I'm getting better, y'all. I'm working on my game. I play in a lot of tournaments just to work, but I've gotten better, which I've seen the growth. But I had an opportunity this summer to golf with some colleagues, and one of my colleagues hit a hole-in-one on a par 3 from 167 yards out. Literally saw it in real time. But the beauty of it was that I was just getting to know him. He was just getting to know me, and Natalie, who was with us. His name is Chris. We celebrated like we've known each other for like 20 years. But the beauty of it was that everybody on the course ran over to where we were, because many people on the hole before us saw it, and it spread like wildfire. So that to me stood out, because that's a story I'm going to be able to tell for the rest of my life. But it also keeps me hopeful that sport can really change the trajectory of what we are facing in our times. And we can't lose sight of that. And not only sport, but higher education, because essentially folks can see our experiences, learn from them. And I can tell you, it has been amazing for me to get to know my colleagues and to learn our experiences and share that on a golf course, which traditionally is a sport that was not curated or designed for people who look like us. So that is power in that and alone. Then my second memory, as you already alluded to it, was October 21st, 2006. We just celebrated the 15th year anniversary of my teammates and I coming back from 38 to 3, which was the greatest comeback in NCAA history. Your man's had a little small part in it, but I'm so thankful because that day I realized anything was possible. And that's when I know anything can be done with the right people, resources, and opportunities around you.
Okay. Better start. We'll continue preaching, to be honest. But let me do this. Question two. And I hope you got to make up for. Shout out to Dr. Lacey, because Dr. Lacey don't know Drake lyrics, and she probably gonna text me that she hear this shit. But
she is.
It's fine. I'll be ready. But top 5 artists.
Ooh. Oh man, are we talking like hip hop, pop?
Any
across the board.
Any genre. I'm not saying any genre except for heavy metal and bluegrass.
So I got to start with, as many times they say you become like your people. My dad loves Earth, Wind, and Fire. So number 5 for me all time would be Earth, Wind, and Fire. I love them.
Okay.
Number 4 for me would be, I would say, and this is tough. I love. That's something over the pandemic I felt got really in tune with music. So I would say El DeBarge. I love his music. Number 3 for me on my all-time list, gotta love it. Whitney, 1988, national anthem. Gotta go with her. In the spirit of staying with the times, number 2 for me would be Tim's. That's my jam. Afro beats, all those things.
Yeah.
And there's a tie for me for number 1. I love the King of the South. T.I. is my guy. I love his music. I love what he stands for. But I also love Jay-Z. So those are my 5 on the spot, not thinking through things, trying to be inclusive, trying to give you different genres of my life and my walk and what keeps me sane.
That's it. Other bars. Okay. That's real. That's real. You've been a T.I. fan since this interview, I think, from '08. Paper Trail is my top 3 album all time.
Yes.
That album it's still.
Yes, sir.
It is.
Urban legend now.
You see, you're a little bit older. I know the album, but it didn't hit the same. I was going through something different when Paper Trail came out, yo. But if you could go to brunch, bottomless brunch, you plus 5 people. You plus 5 people, who are you bringing?
Oh man, definitely Obama's, but in the spirit of them being one, that's they're connected. So
They're
that's
connected one. That's fair. All right, I get that.
Definitely LeBron James. Love him, love everything about him. Best basketball player, in my opinion, of all time. Thirdly, I would love to really have dinner and understand, man, dead or alive, right? I can have him.
Yep.
I would love to really connect with my grandfather, just how he passed away before I got to know him. Just to learn and understand how he went about family and principle, because it's permeated through ours. Also, I would love to have, like I said, got to have Jay at the table, because I want to learn more about his investment stocks and things of that nature. And also, Erica Renee. I think, I'm very intrigued by her work. I love The Shy. That's one of my favorite shows, and everything in that nature and what she's doing. So that would be my bottomless brunch. And I know we'd have to have a lot of mimosas, because there'll be a lot of things that are said, shared, and learned from those people. And not to limit anyone, definitely. I just know I'm gonna meet Barack one day. It's gonna be something special. And I can't wait.
And hopefully I'm there right next to you when it happens. But Jay-Z might charge you to be at your own brunch.
Hey,
he might charge you to be at your own brunch, bruh. Oh shit. Last question for you. Who do you want to see and or hear from on our podcast?
Man, I would say, I think in order to continue to inspire folks, I would say it would be great to get a current athletic director who can inspire this group, and or higher ed professional that can really give them hope that they need to hear. So I recommend Kiki Barnes. I recommend Dr. Eric Wood. Just many people that these folks need to hear from, the YPs, to know that we're in good hands, and our future really depends on them and where we go with this thing and how it will be sustainable. If not, we're going to fall by the wayside if we don't keep these people that we need to keep around, because you are super talented. Y'all have so much value to add to any space, whether that's athletics, higher ed, pro space, and that's something I've learned. And also, too, man, I got to get my girl Oprah Winfrey at the table, going back to that. So I just started that. So.
You see Dr. Kiki Barnes, Dr. Eric Wood?
Absolutely. Got to make it happen.
I need you to hit them two up. I need you to talk to your frat brother down in New Orleans. And I need you to talk to Martin down in UCLA.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I'll do a double drop. I'll drop 2 episodes that week.
You need more newts on here. That'll make life all right for you.
I don't think I've had a frat brother on here yet. It's coming next. I think it's next week. I know. I like to diversify my friend. I'm inclusive.
I appreciate that, brother. I really do. I have more best friends who are alphas than I can tell you. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Accused of five, So I got mad love for Phi Beta Sigma, brother, and everybody else, man.
No, I appreciate that, bro. Anything else you want to share before we head out?
Man, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come on here so people can get to know me beyond the scope of just what you may see. My challenge is that you continue to, what will we do with what you heard? My 30, 60-day, 90-day plan for you is this. Now that you've heard it, what are we going to do about it? So my day 30 challenge to you is I want to hear from you, whether that be via email, LinkedIn, whatever medium you can find me on. My Twitter handle and IG handle are the same, _Henderson31. Find me so that we can have an intense discussion. So that's day 30 homework. Day 60 let's think about how we can make something and action steps that we can take. Whether I hear from you, I take notes from you, then we formalize a plan to take them and elevate them higher. Day 90, my homework for you is to essentially make sure that you and I are level set and understand where we want this to go, and start disseminating these informations to ensure that you are heard, valued, and seen, and create spaces that we haven't before to make sure this continuing learning and stays on our continuum and on our hearts, minds of those who we can make an impact in the rooms that we're not in, but we can get this information to make change. Then lastly, I just want to thank Tim. I love you, brother. Keep doing your thing. You are doing some amazing work. And I'm just grateful for how you continue to show the multifaceted, how talented you are, and the sky's the limit. And I can't wait to be on your show on CBS, ABC, wherever life takes you. I will be there cheering you on, brother, because you have that star power and opportunity, man. So keep walking and living in your purpose. And I can't wait to see the best is yet to come for you, my man.
I appreciate that for real. And Harpo, we coming, number one. And number two, Ashton cannot say this, but I can. He's not bullshitting. Hit him up. 30 days from now, that's early December, right before and or during winter finals for those who are still in the higher ed space. But let's connect. Let's keep walking. Ashton, thank you so much. For everyone else, the conversation will continue, but it's definitely time for action. So look forward to having more conversation rooted in action-oriented problem solving as we continue to move throughout season 4. But as always, until then, welcome.